Welcome to the Holistic Glow podcast. I'm glad that you're here. Today, I want to talk about the idea of feeling scared to feel our emotions. What I mean by that is if you just sit down and realize that some of the things that we are avoiding are purely related to avoiding feeling our emotions. So now the question is, when was the last time you actually sat down to feel your emotions without trying to avoid it or distract yourself or suppress it? Just honestly speaking, most of us will run away from feeling quote unquote bad emotions, right? So just the thought of feeling the emotions makes us shiver. Most of us just want distraction right away. So there's different ways that we do that. However, a lot of us feel so uncomfortable with feeling our emotions. And some people actually feel so uncomfortable to the point where they cannot even be with themselves. They cannot sit with themselves. And this doesn't include being by yourself in a room with electronics distractions, right? So being alone, just sitting with yourself, are you able to do that is the question. We're just gonna talk about why we are so scared of feeling our emotions, because what's the worst that can happen? What would happen if I just start feeling my emotions? I don't know why we avoid it so much, because what's the worst that can happen? Maybe we might cry, we might feel so sad, we might break down, but that's temporary, right? But if we continue to avoid our emotions, the tricky part is they will never leave by avoiding them, right? So it will always be there waiting to be felt, right? So feelings are meant to be felt. We have to feel them. If we don't feel them, there's no other way for the feelings or the emotions to move forward, to move along, right? Because if you think about it, it's everything is energy, right? So this energy is gonna be stuck in our system, mind, body, and it's going to hold us back from the things that we actually want to do. Emotions control a lot of our life. So if we don't know how to deal with emotions properly, we're going to be struggling in life. So now the big question, like I said, is why are we so afraid of emotions? Why? Now, part of it is conditioning. So the way we look at emotions, especially like the hard ones like sadness, anger, fear, we are just conditioned to see those emotions as a problem to solve or something to avoid. So, for example, when we were a child, maybe we were told, like, hey, stop crying. Don't be so sensitive. We've heard these terms. So we think that feeling those emotions is not okay, right? So we start believing that these emotions are, you know, they're shameful. It's shameful to feel these emotions or to express these emotions, or it's weak to feel these emotions, or it's even dangerous. We think that it's dangerous to feel our emotions because the moment we feel, our parents or whoever caregivers tell us very strongly that we should not be feeling that, we should stop. So you can only imagine what this does to a child, right? So uh now, if we have the belief that feeling these emotions is not safe, we're just going to continue doing that throughout our lives. So now, the thing, like I said earlier, avoiding the emotions doesn't make them go away, right? So it's it's like when you have a ball underwater and you're trying to like hold that ball just to stay underwater. Just imagine how much energy it takes, right, to keep it like underwater. So you're holding the ball from top and then you're trying to push it into the water. Do you know how much energy it takes? Have you ever tried that? It takes so much, right? So it's gonna try and come back up, right? So eventually you hold on to it, but however, it's gonna come back up, pop back on out of the water. So it's like holding on, fighting with our emotions is just like that. We're trying to hold it, we're trying to suppress it, But when something like triggers us, it's gonna come out in ways that we don't want. We don't want it, right? So it's always going to be there. It's never gonna go away. On top of that, holding it, suppressing it takes a lot of energy from us. It's like, it's like work to keep that emotion deep inside. And like I said, if it comes out the wrong way, it can ruin our relationships. It can ruin, it's gonna come out the way that we don't want it to come out of our control. So now the question would be for you is like, what emotions do you think that you're keeping under the surface right now? Like, and how much energy is it costing you? What are you avoiding from feeling? It can be something from a long time ago, from your childhood. It can be something like recent. You're just so angry, but you're trying to just like suppress it and stuff like that. So, but what if you allowed yourself to feel, right? What would happen? Versus you holding on to that. What is it costing you? How much energy does it take to hold on to that emotion? So that's just a question for a reflection. Okay, so now let's talk about what happens when we avoid the emotions. Like, what happens when we are running away from feeling, right? So when we avoid feeling our emotions, like I said, unfortunately, they don't just disappear. Like it would have been great if we ignored them, like they would just go away, but it doesn't work like that. I always say that ignoring our emotions is like ignoring like a 2 year old, 3 year old child, probably, right? Like they're gonna continue to cry. The more you ignore that child, the more they're gonna start to scream, right? But if you attend to it, if you give that child attention, eventually, right, that child will soothe himself, right, and come back to uh, their um, regular self. So avoiding the emotions is gonna make things worse. And when I say worse, it can lead up to like chronic stress and anxiety. So everything piles up and it turns into this long term problem. And we can also have like physical symptoms like tension in our body or exhaustion or feeling fatigue or even to the point of illness. So the other side effect would be just feeling numb because we've been like so desensitized and we've been avoiding it. Just a life without emotions. Just imagine, because part of it is like when you avoid feeling the bad emotions, then when you close yourself to any kind of feeling, you're also closing yourself from the good emotions, right? Like joy, happiness, excitement. So those things will make your life feel so dull and boring, and you're just walking through life like a zombie, right? Like you're not feeling anything. You feel like you're safe, but at the same time, you feel like you're not really living life. You're not enjoying life because you're not feeling your emotions. So if you avoid the negative emotions, you're also going to avoid the positive emotions because you have shut it down, right? You're not feeling anything. So that leads to feeling stuck in life or feeling numb in life. So it's like, for example, if your car has something wrong with the car is not going to fix itself, right? So even if you hope that it will fix itself, even if you just ignore it, it's not going to do anything. So eventually your car system will start to break down, right? So one little problem will start affecting the whole system of the car. So that will probably might lead to a breakdown of the car. So again, think of it the same way as other emotions. We avoid them and it becomes, worse, like I said earlier. So now, the other thing that we need to do when it comes to understanding about, changing our understanding about emotions, is like emotions are not our enemy. They're just messengers. So just look at them as messengers. So if you start feeling anger, just think of it as, okay, what is this anger trying to tell me? Why am I angry right now? Right? Maybe my boundaries are crossed. Maybe I need to do something. So, and maybe sadness, right? Maybe sadness is a sign that I just need to grieve I need time to process and let go of something that I thought was, you know, the opposite, right? Um, Fear. Maybe fear is like telling us that we need more preparation or we need to trust ourselves more, we need to have more faith, that type of thing. So we just have to continue to reframe our emotions. So the problem is not feeling our emotions. Feeling our emotions is a good thing. Resisting our emotions, not wanting to feel our emotions, it's going to create that resistance, and the more you resist, the more it's going to persist. So if you ever heard that saying, what you resist persists, it's true, right? So it's going to get stronger the more you're ready to avoid it and not acknowledge it. Just like I said, a child crying, it's going to get louder, right? So it's same thing, because the emotions want to be felt, want to be uh acknowledged and let go and be freed. So that resistance is what creates more suffering, right? But if we just let go and start letting our feelings just be felt, allow them to be processed, that's the most ideal way of living life as a human being when it comes to dealing with our emotions. So I hope that makes sense. So when you finally allow yourself to feel, right, that is when you have your power back. Because when you don't allow your emotions to be felt, you're basically saying that you're less powerful than your emotions and you can't handle those emotions. You're too scared of them. So they're going to take over you, like I said earlier. It's going to come out in so many different ways. It's going to spread into disease, illness, chronic pain, tension in your body. So it's going to just start manifesting itself into so many bigger problems, right? The more we avoid it. But if we learn how to slowly start feeling our emotions, then it's like we're getting our power back, right? So when you process this emotion and allow yourself to feel, you will start feeling powerful. And the first thing is that, you know, like I said, emotions are energy in motion. So you've heard this before. Um, and this energy, as we all know, has to be moving, right? So energy in nature is always in movement, right? And everything is in flow. So when you stop resisting it and allow yourself to feel, the energy was you're allowing the energy to move through you, and then it just dissipates, it just moves along, right? So energy will be transferred, right? So neither created nor destroyed, right? So but energy can change forms, so energy will flow through you, and that's how you let it go. And when you sit with your emotions, you also learn what they're trying to tell you. Because, like I said earlier, emotions can be messengers. So, what's the message there? Because there's always a message for us to learn. Because how else is our body, our consciousness going to communicate to us? How else, right? It's through feelings, it's through emotions, right? And even if we want to know what's in our subconscious mind, we all know our subconscious mind, or maybe we don't, but the subconscious mind uh communicates through feelings and emotions, right? So we have to understand that there's a purpose behind these emotions. And if we know how to uncover what they're trying to tell us, it's like we're listening to a wise teacher that we've been ignoring. So it's going to teach us a lot about ourselves, about what's going on, about our boundaries, about our values, about our life, about our trauma, whatever. Okay. And the more you allow yourself to feel, the less scary the emotions become. So once you start feeling, you will start to wonder, why was I avoiding this so much? It doesn't make sense. So And then you understand that it's just a temporary feeling. It's not going to last forever, right? You feel it, it rises, it has its peak, and then it passes just like waves in the ocean. So it's just going to move through you, right? And then now the other big thing that I want you guys to understand and realize in this process is that the more you feel your emotions and you allow yourself to feel your emotions, just know that that's one of the biggest acts of self-love that you can do for yourself, because you're quite literally freeing yourself from these emotions that are eventually gonna take over and control you if you don't, let them go. Now, when you sit with your emotions, you're telling yourself, or what you're actually doing for yourself is you're being there for you, and you are just being there for, parts of yourself that's been probably ignored or not listened to, not acknowledged. So the moment you start doing that for yourself, that's a very powerful act of self-love that you can do for yourself. So you can just imagine how empowering that can be. And now, just to end this, we'll just talk about how can we safely feel our emotions? Because sometimes, as much as, we can feel our emotions on our own, sometimes if we haven't felt any of these deep emotions, especially if we have some trauma, from the past, heavy things that bring up a lot of heavy emotions, it's always best to start with a professional, a counselor, a therapist, or somebody that you have high regards in terms of trust, and somebody full of wisdom that can actually hold space for you when you feel these emotions, right? So sometimes it's not always best to start by yourself, right? Because like everything else, it might need guidance, you might need support. So for me personally, I never knew how to feel my emotions, and I had to start somewhere, and that is through therapy. I had to access professional therapy. So that's something that we need to do, especially like, in terms of the beginning stages of learning how to feel our emotions, especially if you have some kind of a lot of emotions built up. I really highly suggest that you seek therapy, right? Now, if you feel like you can handle it on your own, and you can just do one little at a time, it's manageable, then you can just find a quiet space where you can't be interrupted, right? So just make sure that you find your spot and you're alone, ideally, unless that person's there to support you, right? Um, and find yourself a sacred space to feel, right? Maybe it could be in your house, it can be somewhere else, but ideally somewhere private. And then you sit down and you start just feeling. Maybe you try to pinpoint, what is this emotion that I'm feeling. So there is actually the emotion chart that you can download from the internet, and there's so many different emotions, right, that will increase our emotional awareness as well. And so you start to pinpoint, like, what is this that I'm feeling? Is it anger? Is it hurt? Because sometimes they can be a little confusing, right? Which one am I feeling? Some of them can be masked, right? Sadness can be masked by anger, because anger is less shameful, especially for men. So just try and name that emotion, so that when you name it, when you recognize it, you've done half of the work. It's no longer taking power over you. It doesn't have power over you. Now you have power over that emotion, because you just recognized it and you named it and you said, this is what I'm feeling. So that's the first step, right? So in a way, you're kind of detaching yourself from that emotion. So that's first step to letting it go. And then just understand that breathing is your best friend, right? So because the emotion is not going to be just disappearing just because you recognize it. You have to feel it in the body, right? You have to start feeling it, and then So, not just in the mind, right? It's not just an idea, it's actually something that needs to be felt. And this is the missing piece, I think, that we haven't been really taught, that it is okay to let your emotions move through your body, even if it feels painful, even if you cry, even if you move your hands in a weird way, like you just have to allow that to happen. Right. And this is one of the reasons why you need a safe space where you can't be interrupted. And this is kind of a very intimate moment for you as well, like I said, because this is you're being there for you right then and there. So you're no longer running away. You're just allowing whatever is coming up. So you take deep breath, slow breath, you start to feel emotions. Where are you feeling it? Is it in the chest, stomach, throat? Where is that coming up for you? And the more you do it, is the more you're going to start being aware of it. Because sometimes people say, well, I don't feel anything. And I'm like, yeah, maybe you don't feel anything because you've been numbed down for a long time. Like, how many years have you just been numb to your emotions? So it's not gonna, your body has to start to feel safe, right? To feel the emotion. So you have to almost train your body to feel safe, start feeling, to feel safe, to start feeling your emotions, because your body has learned for a long time that it's not safe to feel emotions. So the first step is to actually just continue practicing this, even if you don't feel anything. Just continue to just go to your safe space, continue to breathe, continue to sit with yourself, and your body will eventually start bringing up these hidden emotions, right? Because now it feels safe to bring it up. So this is a healing journey, right? And so just don't give up, even if you don't feel anything at first. Eventually, you'll start feeling it more, and you'll start recognizing where in your body this is coming up. Then now you let the emotion just come up and rise up, and whatever you have to feel, don't judge it, right? Just let it go and let it flow naturally. Don't try to fix it. Just stay with it. All you have to do is just stay with it, notice it, and allow it to express itself, right? So what's already in us has to be expressed, right? Has to be let go. So instead of just suppressing it, now we're expressing it. So however way it chooses to come out, we let it come out. Sometimes you might scream, you might cry, it's heavy. That's why I said, like, if you need to have a supportive person, then that's the best thing that you can do, right? um Okay, and then so after this process, in the end, again, you can just reflect, or maybe like a journal, or meditate, or even just take care of yourself after that, because it's a heavy process, right? Because it's something, it takes courage to do this. So, um, if you heard the saying where the opposite of expression is depression or something like that, in a way it can be true, because whatever we don't feel, and yeah, let's say all these sadness, and you know just feeling shame and all these emotions are piled up, and we haven't processed them, we've just been avoiding. It might turn into something that's bigger than that, and it might lead to depression, right? Feeling depressed, like you just almost give up, like you feel so powerless because the emotions have taken over you. But if you start feeling them, allowing it to be expressed and let go, it loses its power over you. So that's the main thing, is that emotions are meant to be felt, feelings are meant to be felt, not suppressed or avoided, right? So, and for me personally, like I said, there was a time where I was not feeling any emotions at all. I was just distracting myself. I didn't know that emotions would be stored in our body, in our mind. I didn't know it would affect me in different ways. But when I started feeling the emotions, I started becoming freer and freer day by day. It's such an amazing feeling. And so, but when you go through it, it's hard because you're feeling these emotions that you haven't felt for a long time. So you might be crying for no reason, you might just be sensitive, right? You might as you're going through it, it's almost like you have to walk through the dark in order to get to the light. So, but if I didn't feel those emotions, where would I be now? I probably wouldn't even be doing this podcast episode right now, because the emotions, again, for example, some emotions like shame, like they have power over you. They tell you that you're not good enough, you're not worth it, you don't deserve this, right? So it holds you back from experiencing life. So there's a lot of emotions that just hold us back, like fear. So if I wasn't recognizing these emotions, right, and if I didn't take my power back, I wouldn't be here. So this is very powerful work. And so I really encourage you to look into it and see how it affects you in your life and see how you can move forward. So if this resonated with you, please share it with someone that might need to hear it. And yeah, just check out my website and everything, as I'll have more topics related to this, as well as moving forward. If you're interested in this kind of topics, do subscribe and follow my podcast. And appreciate you staying until the end, and take care. Bye.